The elections matter a lot to me and should matter a lot to you. Obviously, we had a shocking revelation yesterday in New Jersey, where New Jersey announced that they accidentally registered, they say thousands, 6,000 illegals in New Jersey were mistakenly added to the state's voter rolls. The Department of Motor Vehicles software glitch. But the people who run that software are calling BS on that. The software company is saying that's a total lie. The software vendor, who allegedly glitch-enabled 6,000 citizens to register to vote, and hundreds of them voted, by the way, in New Jersey, is out with a CYA statement blaming the state, saying that no, the state is purposefully registering illegals. Voter registration information is transmitted to the New Jersey Department of State Division of Elections, which is ultimately responsible for verifying eligibility to vote. Information submitted here must be validated and adjudicated. So, well, what is this? This is just like the first and probably in a long series of smoking gun proof that there is a systematic machine that is designed to register as many illegals as possible in Democrat states and maybe even in Republican states to vote and to rig elections. And by the way, when you have a single illegal voter, a single illegal vote is too much. It is amazing to me, and we're going to bring on Harmeet Dhillon here. It is amazing to me how it went from there is no voter fraud, the most safe and secure election in American history, 2020, Chris Krebs, to, well, there's no mass proof of voter fraud. And these are like the headline from NBC News this morning. They still haven't showed mass proof of voter fraud. Remarkable. I mean, remarkable. Sincerely. Yeah, JD Vance saying the exact same thing. Just pop this one up and then let's hop on over to Harmeet with a ton of news. JD Vance, a single ballot cast illegally in an American election is theft of a ballot from another American citizen. It is something that is intolerable to our system. And there's one person in our system and at our DOJ who's done more to burn down the regimes of voter fraud in our country than anyone else. Her name's Harmeet Dhillon. She's in charge of the Civil Rights Division. This is a civil rights issue, obviously, when your vote gets stolen. Harmeet joins us live right now. Harmeet, welcome back to the program. I think that you deserve an enormous round of applause of vindication because you've been talking about this for a long time. And everybody has attacked you and said, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? And then suddenly this bombshell just drops from out of nowhere in New Jersey with the verified evidence that they are machine registering illegals and those illegals are voting.
Oh, Benny, thanks for having me here. Absolutely right. I've been talking about this through all my decades of service in Republican politics for free at the RNC and, trying to make that a centerpiece here of the work we do at the Department of Justice. And we are vindicated. I already knew this was happening. Now the governor of New Jersey has been forced to admit it, but they moved the goalposts even further from there is no fraud to there isn't much fraud to, well, the fraud didn't matter. It didn't sway the outcome of any elections. How do you know that, Governor Sherrill? There were several municipal elections in New Jersey that were decided by a handful of votes. Elections are decided by one vote sometimes in this country, and to brush that off is ridiculous. So we have opened up our own investigation here at the Department of Justice yesterday within hours of reading about this and have demanded the identities of the individuals who were put on the rolls wrongfully to ensure that they've been removed, but also 400 plus of these individuals self-identified as non-citizens, and then they went ahead and voted. And this is after the left says, oh, this SAVE Act isn't necessary because it's already illegal to vote. Yeah, and it's also happening on a massive scale. And, I suspect it's much bigger than what was disclosed yesterday in New Jersey and in many other jurisdictions, because if it weren't, the 30 states or so that are fighting me on getting the voter roll so we can help avoid this type of situation wouldn't be fighting it. They'd be handing them over. We'd all be cooperating, kumbaya. We'd be getting together and getting this done for the American people so that everyone has confidence. But Instead, they're fighting. This includes some Republican states. I don't even understand that. And this should be a big wake-up call to all election officials. And I sent a letter less than 2 weeks ago to all of these election officials warning them that if they knowingly allowed non-citizens to stay on the voter rolls and vote, we would come after them at the Department of Justice. I was mocked. I got nasty letters back from secretaries of state. And in fact, we see that it was very necessary and even more needs to be done.
This is facilitating a felony, a federal felony.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to do about the illegals that voted, that of course know that they're not American citizens? They went into rig elections. They know they're not allowed to vote. Nobody stopped them. I guess there's a problem there, but those individuals made a choice and they committed a crime in America.
Well, I'm not going to call them illegals. They may be green card holders. It's still illegal for them to have voted, to be very clear, though. And so what I want to say about that is that we have been doing prosecutions here throughout the United States quietly. It's, you find them one at a time, and then you prosecute them one at a time. You have to go send either Homeland Security investigators or FBI to go take statements and then check. I mean, I just checked some lists that some activists sent me recently, and we're very careful before we accuse somebody of illegally voting. So first step, demand those names. Second step, verify that they voted. I don't trust anything New Jersey is telling me at this point. So, and then, they are subject to both prosecution as well as removal from the United States. And certainly when people come up for citizenship, they're asked that question, have you voted? And some people proudly say, well, yes, I did. I've been voting for years. That makes you ineligible to become a United States citizen. So we are going after this all over the country.
So, yes. So you're saying, I mean, because this is something that I constantly ask. There needs to be a warning sign effectively printed out. I think this is happening really, really nicely with the fraud issue, where people are seeing that there are actually consequences to engaging in hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud against these people of the United States of America. The wheels of justice are grinding slowly, but it's nice to see. There have been some big stories that we've been able to cover that, like, this guy committed fraud and now they're going to prison. This woman committed fraud, now she's going to jail. It'd be really nice to see, like, hey, these 400 people voted illegally. They stole the votes of American citizens. To paraphrase J.D. Vance, like they neutralized the votes of actual legal Americans, and now they're all going to be deported. Like, that'd be nice, Well,
you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, just understand that we've already been doing this at DOJ. We want to amplify it. I think it's also important that we actually have some public service announcements out there, and stay tuned. You should be seeing those coming as well. Like I said, I was mocked for warning public officials that they needed to stop this, and in fact, it's very necessary. And so we are drawing attention to this issue, and everyone watching this should tell their neighbors who are maybe here legally but not American citizens, the consequences of voting when you're not allowed to in a federal election can mean removal to your home country and worse. It's a crime, and people need to just stop cold in their tracks and not enable it. And shame on New Jersey for its sloppy and incompetent handling of this issue, or worse.
I want to put up something that you just posted on X minutes ago. I'm getting a lot of love for this. Posted yesterday at 5 p.m., but here we go. Civil Rights Division, Justice Department investigating this unlawful dilution of American votes. It's such a great way to put that. Because,
well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's cancellation of American citizens' votes, and it is happening. And I have cases in the pipeline, and criminal cases. We do not generally comment on them unless they already become public. But I'm working with several United States attorneys, and every single incident that I find, I don't think one incident is like penny ante. We are prosecuting every single incident we can find. So I call up one of the U.S. attorneys and I say, here's the evidence. Let's get this together and let's get a guilty plea or a conviction in this matter, and let's go. So we're taking this very seriously. And I remember I lived in New York back in the day when Rudy Giuliani became the mayor, and he started prosecuting turnstile jumping and other what was called sort of petty crimes. I don't even think this is a petty crime, but every single one of them needs to be prosecuted, and you'll see an end to it.
Broken windows theory. It's genius.
That's right.
It's spectacular. I didn't actually know that you said, did you work on Rudy's team, or were you just living in New York?
No, I lived there as a young lawyer a long time ago.
So, okay. So now you've seen it all. What is going to happen to the state of New Jersey? The software company is calling out this BS and saying, no, wait a second. this is not a software glitch. This isn't a glitch at all. You
Right.
didn't do your job.
Yeah, well, this is, I think, look, to be very frank, I think it is a feature and not a bug that some of these Democrat leaders have pushed this idea that it is sufficient for citizens and to self-identify as such and get on the voter rolls with no checking. Not every state does this. I will say that I've been investigating some counties and some states that are, some of these swing states, and found that, in fact, some people who tried to register and they weren't citizens, they were caught. Like, so some people do their job, but for the most part, New Jersey apparently just, did not verify. It's required to do so under our federal laws. And, or turning a blind eye, willful blindness to this problem is a huge problem in our country. And so why did I start this process? Why did I ask for the voter rolls from 50 states and the District of Columbia? Because I knew from my decades of work in this space, you've seen me on the ground in New Jersey and other jurisdictions, and in Arizona and other jurisdictions, that this is a problem, that election officials are not doing their jobs to remove dead people from the voter rolls, to remove duplicates from the voter rolls, to update their voter rolls for people who have moved, to coordinate with other states on their voter rolls, and to make sure only citizens are on their voter rolls for federal elections. And so this is a bipartisan problem, to be very clear. It is not a partisan problem. It's happening in blue states and red states. The fact of the matter is, a lot of folks who run for Secretary of State, they're parking their campaign finance money or whatever. They don't really want to be Secretary of State. They want to be governor or attorney general or whatever. So people aren't doing the job as well as they should. And these are the consequences. American citizens' votes are stolen and elections are stolen, and citizens lose confidence in the outcome of elections, and then they don't vote, and it's a death spiral of democracy. So we can't have that. And I'm really proud to be part of the president's effort and the DOJ's effort, and really leading it. We sent election monitors into Arizona yesterday, and they were able to help and troubleshoot in real time. We did that we're doing that in 5 other jurisdictions in the primary alone. And I'm designing a very ambitious program to make sure that election hotspots that have been trouble in the past are going to be heavily covered by federal monitors in the actual midterm elections in November.
That's excellent. Could you explain, like, what areas are you targeting and what does that monitoring look like?
It looks like what you saw in Arizona yesterday. We have federal trained observers, lawyers who are from the Department of Justice. They may be supplemented by other lawyers who are in the government, but we give them training. And then, of course, there are other groups are monitoring as well, but we're providing state-of-the-art training, and they go and observe within the bounds of state law. And they can help troubleshoot sometimes. Like, for example, in Arizona, there was a polling place yesterday where the machines were quote unquote down. Well, they were down because somebody plugged them into outlets that didn't work. Duh. I mean, we've all had to troubleshoot that kind of thing. With help, it was quickly handled, and people were able to vote. I mean, it happens.
Classic. Yeah, that's right.
There are a lot of, who hasn't done it? I've done it. And then you're like, duh, but anyway, we can't have people not able to vote. In the 2024 election, I was on the ground for the president's campaign, and Apache County, which is a lot of Native Americans voting there, could not vote because of gross incompetence on the ground there and their election officials. So we sent monitors there. So in November, you're going to see places where our Department of Justice has observed there being problems, irregularities in the past. New Jersey is actually one of those jurisdictions where we sent monitors last year for their election, and they were cooperative. They allowed us to send monitors to these places where they'd had repeated problems. Michigan has gotten monitors in this election cycle. And whatever we did in the midterms, it's going to be many multiples of that in the general election. And so I'm excited about that, because I want citizens to see monitors there and say, yeah, the government has eyes and ears on this. We aren't just letting people do whatever they want with our elections, because the right to vote is so precious. People die for this right in the rest of the world. We take it for granted. We allow, most of the mail I got picked up yesterday when I got home after work, Benny, was junk. Okay. That's how you get your ballots in most of America now. That's nonsense. And so we really need to tighten that up and treat it like the precious right that it is, and handle it with all due respect by law enforcement.
I think one of the most genius things that I've maybe ever seen from election integrity is the Postmaster General coming out saying, if you don't turn over your list to Harmeet Dhillon, your voter list, then you're not going to get ballots.
Right.
And that just withstood in a appellate decision
correct.
in D.C. That's
correct.
a huge victory for you.
It is. It's a huge, not for me, it's a huge victory for all citizens of this country who want to be able to count on the outcome of elections. And, ever since COVID shifted the Overton window to this default of treating our precious right to vote like, grocery circulars, it's degraded that right. And everyone has stories of, I mean, I've got several ballots at my house. I'm the Assistant Attorney General of the United States. I got ballots at my house in DC for other people who, used to live there. There's just absolutely no care about this, and that needs to end.
So this is what's seemingly going to happen, right? Through the election. Is this rule going to stand? That if you don't turn over your voter list, that the U.S. Postal Service is not going to be complicit in a crime by delivering ballots to illegal voters?
I certainly hope so. I mean, Mark Elias and his cronies are working hard to undermine election integrity. That's been their full-time program for a long time now. And we're not deterred. To be frank, the effort to get the voter rolls from states has run into buzzsaws of liberal judges who have come up with some fairly nonsensical arguments to say that the proxy of the Attorney General here under statute, cannot get the voter rolls because they're not a quote unquote record within the meaning of the Civil Rights statute that we're suing under, the 1960 Civil Rights Act, because it doesn't exist until someone pushes a button and calls it up. That's the most tortured logic ever. I mean, Governor Sherrill basically had to admit yesterday that the record of people entitled to vote interstate certainly was generated, and it included a bunch of people who shouldn't have been there. This is exactly why we need to review these materials. This is exactly why every state needs to be running their list through the SAVE database and cooperating with Americans. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. This is about doing your job competently and correctly and for the American people you represent. I mean, yesterday she came out and said, and making this shocking admission, that it was President Trump's fault somehow. I mean, these people are just totally nuts when it comes to being honest about these issues. And so it's up to us at the Department of Justice to be very clear-eyed about it. And I think she tried to protect the people who did it by saying they were Republicans, they were Democrats, they were independents. I don't care. I don't care how they voted.
Correct.
I do not care. We'll be going after all of them.
Yes, correct. Oh, fantastic. You keep talking about people voting, but Harmeet, I think you're missing a huge constituency of illegal voting, which is dogs. In your home state of California, there's a lot of dogs vote. And
I don't know about a lot, but it has happened for sure.
Yeah,
in
dogs.
Orange County, there was an example of that. And, one time the registrar caught the vote and the other time the registrar didn't. So an American human biped was canceled out by the quadruped. It is unforgivable, and it needs to stop.
What about the state of California? It's brought so much attention unto itself over this. I know Spencer Pratt was just meeting with the president at the White House. I know you love that state and that's your home, but man, what a mess. And of course that California system is what they're trying to nationalize, of course, if they get power again. So, what are you doing about the state of California?
Well, I mean, we're suing California just like these other states that are not giving us their voter rolls. And whatever you see in New Jersey, it's a fairly small state. I can guarantee you that the problem is 100 times worse in the 40 million population California that is so dear to my heart. And it's not even disputed, as I've said many times publicly. Judicial Watch entered into a settlement with Los Angeles County, which has 10 million people in it, in 2017. Where they agreed, the Los Angeles County Registrar agreed that there were 1 million people on the voter rolls who didn't belong there, dead, moved, not citizens. And then it took years to clean it up. I remember during my confirmation hearing with the Senate, Senator Padilla tried to gaslight me about that. And I brought some facts out, and he, immediately withdrew the question. It's a fact, and they all know it. And he was the Secretary of State. And so, they point fingers immediately on vendors and computer systems to deflect from their irresponsible conduct. And to be clear, she wasn't, Governor Sherrill wasn't the governor when it happened, but it totally could have happened under her watch because these are the policies of the left. Don't check ID. Don't even allow people to present ID. Let them self-identify and then sue them if a state like Arizona tries to require voter ID.
So with California, how bad is it? The president gave this primetime address last week. He released documents from DHS that said there are 200,000 illegals registered to vote in California, if I'm remembering the chart correctly. And that's probably the tip of the iceberg. Like, how bad is it in California, and how does it get cleaned up?
I don't think we know how bad it is in California. I want to be very clear about that. Why? Why? Because they hide the ball. They lie and they obfuscate. And so how we get it, I mean, ultimately, I'm going to go all the way to the Supreme Court on this issue of trying to get the voter rolls, which I'm entitled to do in our interpretation of federal law. And if I don't get them, because the Ninth Circuit, this is already California and Oregon already ruled against me in district court level, and the Ninth Circuit is sitting on an opinion. We've already seen, I went and saw the oral argument in Pasadena. We're waiting for the result of that. I think I know what it's going to be. And, ultimately, I think this issue will be decided by the Supreme Court. But ultimately, it's really up to Congress. I can only do my best up through the courts. But ultimately, if the courts decide that nobody has the authority to look at the voter rolls, well, Congress needs to fix that pronto and fix these loopholes that exist. Like, Save America Act is a great example. I think people should be allowed to vote by mail if, they meet certain criteria, but the wholesale mailing of ballots combined with the very loose, as we've just seen yesterday, voter rolls is a disaster and needs to be corrected by our lawmakers.
Yeah. Final question here. What would this, how helpful would the SAVE Act be in your mission to clean up the voter fraud in our nation?
I mean, it would be critical. For one thing, we would be addressing, if the whole SAVE Act gets passed, the mail ballot issue, but, requiring states to use the SAVE database and cleaning up their voter rolls regularly would be absolutely critical. Requiring voter ID is just common sense. The number of times I walk around DC, I have to go to the White House, I have to go into meetings, I check into a hotel, I go on a flight. I have to show my ID so many times during the week, as every American does, and it's no big deal. And states that have required voter ID give them for free if you don't have one otherwise. And so that common sense measure would immediately crack down on, I think, the vast majority of voter fraud in our country, because it'll become so onerous to cheat that people would have to go find some, other project to corrupt. It would not be the voting.